before this is all said and done, you will have to literally be underneath a rock to not notice the value and the importance of owning precious metals when this whole system starts to break apart.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest. Andy Schectman is the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals. He's here for our weekly market update this Tuesday, December 21st, 2021. Andy, as always, thanks for coming back on.
Good to be here, Duncan, and you're special because I've been promising my wife that I was going to take some time off. I don't think I've taken any time off in 2 years. That's how crazy it's been. I know you're the same, and but I always enjoy our Tuesdays, and thought I'd make an exception to my time off and come visit with you again for a few minutes. So thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And frankly, I will not be the only one enjoying this special privilege. All of our viewers look forward. They even call me in between or text me in between our chats here on the weekly market update and said, remember to ask Andy this, or what did Andy say about that? So you've got a lot of people waiting and watching and very interested in your perspectives on the precious metals market from the retail standpoint. In fact, while we're usually doing a live stream, I'm getting more texts from people saying, remember to ask him about this. So anyway, one of the things that people are asking about right now is this, what we keep talking to them about is this risk of running out of inventory. We've been talking about it all fall, and as most recently as the last 2 weeks. Could you talk to us about what happened to the special of those 70,000 Philharmonic 2021s that we put on special last Tuesday night?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're gone. On top of all the quarter-ounce Noah's Arks and most of the 1 ounce, 70,000 ounces used to last a long time. Now it lasts less than a week, 4 or 5 days. And I think this is emblematic of a growing interest amongst the mainstream. We're seeing more and more people enter into this market, and they're all looking for silver. It used to be that no one really bought silver. Most of my career, the business centered around purchasing of gold. And in looking at the numbers over the last 2 years, which have been record volume, 4 or 5 times normal volume over the last 2 years, over 95% of every single order that we've done for the last 2 years has been comprised completely of or a portion of silver. And it's becoming very difficult to keep product in stock because really, as I've said over and over and over again, what defines a precious metals bull market is the fact that your motivation is centered more around concern rather than it is profit. And when you look at traditional investments, you're often told to play with the house's money. When you make a profit, sell some, leave some on the table, play with the house's money, reallocate it, do something else. But that doesn't happen here. No one wants to sell anything right now, Dunnigan, and it's been that way for 2 years. So you certainly have to work harder to keep supply rotating in and out. And those 70,000 coins we bought were from another dealer who bought more than he thought he could sell. So fortunately, we have a good relationship, not just with the big distributors and the mints, but also a network of dealers who I've known for 3 decades, some of which oftentimes have excess inventory to sell. But even deals like that are becoming harder to get. You know, you look at things like the Call of the Wild series that are so popular from the Royal Canadian Mint, both gold and silver. You cannot find those to save your life. Or some of the specials that came out of the Perth Mint, the saltwater crocodile or the funnel web spider. These are coins that, you know, I used to love to tell people to buy. They were limited mintage, but we could always find them. Can't find them. And you're beginning to see that now with more common stuff. Even like gold Krugerrands are becoming really, really hard to find. And, you know I keep saying it. I sound like a broken record, but my motivation centers around the fact that I believe we will see a continued expansion into the mainstream, a realization for most people who haven't realized what's happening yet for some crazy reason. A lot of us can't believe that those people haven't realized it yet. Then we bang our head against the wall. Why doesn't my best friend? Why doesn't my mom? Why don't they see what's happening? And you try with such frustration to help them, only to realize that the old adage, shooting the messenger, no one wants to hear it. When there is a realization, and often with the public, the realization to do something is after the move has been established, far too late for it to have a meaningful impact. When that realization happens, this in my mind's eye is when I see everything blowing up. When what is a very difficult environment to source product now, when it's just all of us, when you see all of us plus all of the people out there who you've been wanting to help yourselves out of nobility, I'm going to help my friends, I'm going to talk to them about it. When they come back to you and say, where did you get that gold? Why didn't I buy it? That's when it will become impossible to find. So I know I sound like a broken record. I know I sound like the little boy who cries wolf, but when I look at or make a statement, I am thinking in my mind's eye out into the future. And I've always had a curse of being way early, but it's better than being 60 seconds late. That I can promise you, Dunnigan. And that's where the things that I've talked about regarding supply emanate from, because I do believe before this is all said and done, you will have to literally be underneath a rock to not notice the value and the importance of owning precious metals when this whole system starts to break apart.
One personal anecdote as a retail broker who works directly with retail clients in this area, when you talked about those 70,000 2021 Philharmonics that you got in just in time for our special last Tuesday night, I was working with a purchaser who's worked with me many times before, a client. Yesterday morning, he called to say, I think I want to make this move today. I want to get 4 monster boxes of those. I checked the inventory. I said, we've got 7 monster boxes left. So out of the approximately 140 monster boxes we started with, we only got 7 left. So please don't delay. He called me back just after lunch and they were gone. There weren't any to be had. So I had warned him ahead of time that it's going to be different product, different price if those are gone. So that kind of thing, that's a little tiny example, but it's the kind of thing that keeps playing out over and over again. Sometimes it's even the same day, people finding out that the thing that they had their eye on gets cleaned off the shelf.
I can tell you that as a company yesterday, we did north of 260 orders. Now, we're not an online company. And so, it's one thing to click 260 times. It's another thing to have 260 conversations that lead to transactions. And so that's a very big day. And especially if you were to annualize that out, you're talking what, 11, 12, 1,300 a week on a 5-day week times 52. I mean, you're talking a lot of transactions. And that's how things are disappearing, is that more and more people are waking up to this and looking for ways to preserve, and which, again, just needs to bear mentioning that this is not an investment. This is wealth. And I think more people are looking at gold and silver as wealth, less as an investment. And that's really the foundation, I think, that you need to look at this about, because it then directs you in the right place. You're not looking to buy high-grade numismatics. You're not looking to make a killing. You're not looking for rare stuff. Yeah, if you've been doing this forever, that's great. The cherry on the sundae is great. But what you should be looking at is accumulating wealth, non-subjective liquid wealth, at a period of time when the currencies of the world are rapidly being debased, and with no sign in sight, no sign of that ending in sight.
Yeah, I also wanted to tag on there that I mentioned to my wife, it had been a fairly mild week or two prior to, so the first 2 weeks of December, and that was a little bit like last year. December started out pretty quietly last year. And last year, that lasted all the way up pretty much till the end of the year, and then things kicked in again in New Year's. But however, last Friday and this Monday, yesterday, were extremely heavy days, as you mentioned, and I couldn't believe it. We had to ditch all of our plans. We had to, my wife had to bring me meals at my desk. It was crazy. And I said to her, this morning it got a little bit quieter again. I said, I'm going to check my stock market app, which I didn't have time to look at for the last few days. Sure enough, Friday was a down day on the stock market. Monday was a down day on the stock market. Today, stock market having a slight rebound. It's like, I don't even have to look at my stock market app anymore. I can tell by how the actions that people are taking about getting into metals, whether the stock market's going up and down. And she mentioned to me this morning when I brought that up to her, she said, but that's not when the problem started, and that doesn't mean the problem is ended. it's just when people make their move, after it's obvious that they should be concerned, or they think when there's a rebound in the stock market, oh, everything's fine. Okay, everything's fine.
It's a bad thing. That would be like Noah building the ark after the water started to rise. It's a bad thing. And here again, this is why I try to underscore and put an exclamation point after the fact that this is wealth. So, there's as an example, there's a young man who helps me out at Miles Franklin, who Justin. And when I hired Justin, I made him basically adhere to the same mantra that I did when I started this company 31 years ago with my father. I said, you're going to buy something every 2 weeks, you're going to hear from me. And I make him do it. And I'm ingraining the fact that this is wealth. I don't care if you have a problem with it, Justin. If you're listening, you buy every 2 weeks, you put it away. It's not an investment and it's wealth. And that's what I want to say to everyone out there. I put my money where my mouth is, 100%. And I take great comfort in a period of great uncertainty, in a period of a time like no one's ever seen. You want to talk about uncharted waters. We are so far deep in uncharted territory that I think falling back on 5,000 years of historical wealth is the best approach. And that's kind of where I come from. And everything that I talk about, all the way up to the fact that I believe supply will disappear, because people will realize when things really get scary, if the Fed really does follow through with their threat to taper. Now, again, what does taper mean? That just means they're not going to stop buying bonds. They're just going to buy less bonds than they do. But in 19, when they did it, the minute interest rates got near 3%, everything puked. What's going to happen this time? Are they going to continue? Are they going to follow suit like Paul Volcker did, raising interest rates way, way above the rate of inflation to kill it, or not? Is it a token? Who knows? But if things really did get that bad and rates rose and the market started to tank, there will be a massive awakening like that. Oh my God, why didn't I listen to Dunnigan? Why didn't I listen? Why didn't I buy that stuff? And that's when it all disappears. And it's because they will run to wealth. They're not all trying to get wealthy at that point. They will realize it is a life raft in a sinking ship.
Well, it kicks me back to my roots as founder of the Reluctant Preppers web channel in 2013. And ever since, the whole idea, the mantra of preparedness community is I'd rather be 7 years early than 1 day late. And the idea is if you wait until the power goes out to buy a generator, or if you wait until the supply chains shut down to try to go get some food or some toilet paper, you're behind everyone else in line, and you may or may not get anything, but you're definitely going to be in for a scrap. People, and that's my other theme that I wanted to bring out that's happening now in the second half of December, is it looks like people are, quote unquote, getting it done now. They've been talking all quarter of, before the end of the year, or I want to get my ducks in a row, I want to get this in place. And I'm seeing more and more clients that are making their move now. There's some people are even saying, well, I was waiting for more of a dip, but I think I just better make my move. So you've told us about this happening. You've told us about this theme of people making their move. And that's what I'm seeing now is people are getting it done now.
You know who else is doing that? The insiders. You have record insider selling right now. You have record insider selling. Last week I told you about.
You're talking about stock like CEOs and so on.
So I mean, it's repositioning at the end of the year, and whether you're moving into precious metals or leaving risk assets, like equities, or the risky assets, I should say, where equities are right now, you have record inside selling, and so. You have record inflows into the equity markets, record inside selling. If that isn't reason enough to take a step back, and when you see the Microsoft CEO sell 50% of his holdings, I don't know. I think this should be the reason. It doesn't have to be obvious. Just look at what's happening. Don't look at the price. Look at what the big money is doing, and they are getting out of harm's way. And I think that's really the idea here is don't wait until the price confirms that
you should have already done it.
And it's just take a step back and look what the insiders are doing. And they're all leaving the equity market right now. Where they're putting their money, that I don't know yet, but time will tell.
The other thing I wanted to mention was I mentioned the preparedness aspect of you can't wait until the problem is happening. From my engineering background, in failure modes effects analysis, that's trying to evaluate what are all the ways that this system can break. What are all the ways in the engineering you worry about how can the factory break or how can the machines break, and then how do you prevent that? In this case, it's the ability to transact our financial lives, the ability to even have a financial future, and you look at all the ways that can break. But even zeroing in just on the precious metals bullion business that you are a CEO of a bullion company, all the ways that can break. And we've tried to make those clear to people that inventory can run out because others will show up and clean the shelves bare before you show up. Or the spot price may drop, but premiums can spike at that same time. And that means you don't have any visibility, any line of sight of that ahead of time. It's just going to happen because of market forces. The third thing I'm really concerned about is our ability to meet, even if we have some inventory, and even if people want their product, people like the silver, we just were talking with the silver, Wall Street Silver Reddit group, and the silver squeeze, we've been through silver squeeze 1.0 and 2.0 and so on, but there's a slogan in that community about break the COMEX so that we can have free and honest markets. But if the COMEX gets broken because of whatever factors, that can also impair dealers' abilities or anyone who has legitimate business to be able to fill orders. So for people who are waiting for the low spot price, low premium, high availability, and the whole system working and available to get their stuff, I keep reminding people, guys, I don't have control over any of those factors. So if you have this grand plan in your mind and you want to wait until you see all your stars line up, don't expect that all of these failure modes are not going to get you. So that's my engineering mind coming to see the potential avenues of failure. Your exposure to the COMEX not being available, you've talked to us about it before. Could you please clarify that again to people?
You don't have to experience a run on the COMEX to see the COMEX kind of cease. You could just see a massive run into the eligible category rather than the registered. And you're seeing a lot of that happening. Like, for example, the giant whale on COMEX Gold, who has 40,000 gold contracts, over 4 million. Now, he hasn't taken delivery yet, but these are held in his eligible account. They are not registered. This is in strong hands. If more and more people start take large interest, start taking position on COMEX and pulling metal off of the eligible or the registered category into eligible, I think you'll see a problem. I don't know that the retail community will have the ability to break COMEX. Part of me, I think COMEX is already broken. I think the retail public will add to the dysfunction of COMEX, or certainly add to the issue. But I think it'll be the big institutional money that will start taking. In essence, they don't even have to take the metal out of the warehouses just to take possession of it with warrants in the eligible category. And I think you're kind of seeing that right now. I hope that never happens from a standpoint of blowing up this industry, but who's to know? The COMEX is really super dysfunctional. That's the bottom line. And speaking of COMEX, if you look at it right now, you listen to Alistair McLeod on your show, and he talks about the Basel III reserve ratio requirements that are coming into play. Now, I've always felt that one of these days they'll reposition and move in that direction. I'm not saying that's going to happen right now, but we are at really a very critical juncture where you have extremely bullish readings in both gold and silver on the commercial side. They have gone long and pared down a good amount of their short contracts, where the managed money, who typically gets hoodwinked, has taken the other side of that. They're really very, very short right now, and the commercials are going long. Did they engineer this, the commercials, where they push the price down below resistance levels and moving averages to get the managed money to sell out? Could it actually go a way that we don't expect it to, where the price goes straight up off the charts? I don't know. I don't know what happens to COMEX, but I would say it's already broken. I think if it technically breaks, it would be a short period of time before something is used to hedge. Maybe it moves over to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. I'm not quite sure, but let's hope that doesn't happen, because if there's not a way to hedge inventory, this entire industry is out of business in 24 hours. Because if you can't hedge your inventory, you don't have an inventory. We have, 60, 70, $80 million of inventory at any given time. What do you do if you can't hedge that? You don't have that kind of inventory. It puts you out of business in a matter of days if the market moves against you, or hours. So, but these are the types of things that are becoming reality, these types of thoughts. They are becoming more and more realistic as you see more and more large institutions purchase metal. Look at the Bank of India just imported 39, almost 40 million troy ounces of silver last month, and 2.87 million ounces of gold. Big money are using these price dislocations, these price smackdowns, as an incentive or as a subsidy to increase their holdings. So could COMEX get overrun? Yeah, but not by you and I and everyone else out there. I think it will happen by the big industrials who wake up to the fact that there's nowhere else to go. And very, very quickly, in an environment where you see 100 times or many hundreds of times the amount of silver that's on the planet traded in a year, thousands of times, very, very quickly, I think they could run for delivery. And then you see a force majeure and the whole thing breaks down. And then there's a period of time where dealers like myself have a real problem with hedging inventory and hedging transactions. And could that happen? Yeah. I just don't think it happens from us retail buyers. I just think that adds fuel to an already 5-alarm fire.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that it was going to be the retail buying appetite that was going to cause that to happen. I was looking at it from a failure mode standpoint and saying, isn't that yet one more risk factor that could throw a wrench in people's plans that they will be able to, at a time of their choosing, go ahead and acquire what they want to choose at the price they want to choose, that kind of thing. Just realizing we can make all the plans we want, but we've got these things that are beyond any of our control that could throw a wrench in our plans. In fact, we talked with Rick Rule about that, and he said pretty much what you said. He said that the retail impact on that might be 2 to 3%. That's what we've seen so far this year. But he said it's when the big movers make their move that we'll see the real, what he's called the real silver squeeze, the real gold squeeze.
I agree, and I think that'll happen. And, rumor is Elon Musk is buying a silver mine. So, now that's just a rumor. I don't know if that's true, but when you see that type of rhetoric, that tells you it's the duality of demand that silver possesses in a world that has experienced a monetary renaissance in it, and escalating and increasing demand and industrial demand. It's bound to happen. And the industrials, I think, at some point will get into a major fight with the hedge funds. It'll be about value investing versus the necessity of silver and all of the industrial components that are growing. So we're not quite there yet, but maybe we're really close when you see that type of discussion, and when you see the Central Bank of India import 39.92 million troy ounces of silver. It's happening. You just have to take a step back and realize that price is a tool of misdirection. And you have 4 commercial banks that are controlling the price of gold and silver. That can't end well when the whole world is accumulating it. That's a very, very, that's a big ask to be able to hold back the price when the rest of the world is trying to buy it.
Right. And as you just pointed out, there are many mechanisms by which physical, if you just look at physical, of where it's coming from and where it's flowing to. I remember interviewing Rick Rule about 2 months ago. He talked about Sprott buying up basically all that could be had of COMEX eligible bars that were within trucking distance of Winnipeg over the period of time. And then we also you talked about sovereign bank governments and central banks around the world that have been accumulating at record paces. You talk about big fish investors that are just waking up and now staking out their position ahead of the little guy. And then you talk about something like an industrial giant like Tesla going direct to a mine. That means that whatever comes out of that mine is not going to be available physically to go on to the retail investment or COMEX investment. It's going to go directly to where it's being consumed by industry. All of these things are taking physical out of the hands of otherwise being able to be available for investment.
Yeah, and they're doing so before the public catches on. I guess one of the mysteries that I live in a country club, and there are a lot of people here who have done well for themselves, and there's maybe two people I've met. Everyone asks, what do you do? What do you do? And there's two people I've met that I've had what I would consider to be meaningful conversations about precious metals. One guy actually had one of the finest collections of silver half dollars that have ever been graded by PCGS. It was a very interesting conversation. But most people still believe the road to retirement is paved with mutual funds and stock certificates. Some think crypto also. But gold and silver are still way out in left field, and which befuddles me. I just don't understand it. And that's, again, why I think we as a community have been able to continue to have product to sell and offer and accumulate, because there's been so much money accumulated over the last few years in this K-shaped environment where, because of the Fed's policies, the assets that everyone holds, their homes, their real estate, their equities have gone to the moon, their bonds to the moon. And with that environment, you would think that people would want to preserve some of it. It's proven that it's much harder to keep your money these days than it is to make it for the very, very wealthy, as all of their assets have appreciated so dramatically. But if there is that realization, there's so much money out there. 50% of every dollar we've talked about ever created in the history of the country in the last 2 years, 20 months. If just a little bit of that money comes into this area, that's where all of my thinking comes into play, where you just won't find anything. As we've talked about before, one large investor could clean out the industry. I mean, they really could. Someone who's a centimillionaire could pretty quick start to disrupt this entire industry. Few $100 million, and it would be difficult to get anything from anybody the next day.
In the face of that, for those who do want to protect some of what they've worked hard for, and to have, as we've always looked for in the preparedness community, something set aside as a plan B, what do you have to offer this week for our weekly special, knowing full well that what we offered last week sold out within less than a week?
I'm going to stick with the Philharmonic, this time the 2022, which we are now just getting in. They will be $3.75 over the price of silver, and will be available for immediate delivery. I do caution everyone, however, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, it's rather, I think, unrealistic to expect getting things really probably until after the first of the year. You have, as it is, so much going in and out of UPS these days, but with the holidays, it's going to be kind of tough. So yes, in stock, yes, able to ship quickly, but our warehouse will be closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And so you've got 4 days in a 1 week period that are off the chart. So in any case, $3.75 over on 2022 silver Philharmonics. And, we sell gold too. We sell platinum. We sell all the palladium and numismatics and all those things too. But look, I look far and wide and high and low, and I do not see a better place to put your money, period, than silver. And it checks every box: supply, demand, relationship to gold, relationship to past peak. Every single box is checked in a way that I just can't believe everyone isn't noticing. And it needs to be a part of everyone's portfolio. I don't care if it's 10 ounces or 10,000 ounces. You need to have some silver in your portfolio, and this is as good of a buy as you'll find. In fact, we've looked around, and I don't see really anyone who's out lower than we are on the 2022 Philharmonic. So it's our pleasure to bring that to your audience here as our last special. Looks like we're pretty darn close to it for 2021.
Well, we're always grateful for your presence here. Folks, if you have any additional questions that you'd like to get answered, don't hesitate to give us a call at the number you've been seeing, and we'll talk it through with you. And Andy, just on behalf of all of our viewers, as always, I'm just grateful, and I extend their thanks and my thanks to you for joining us here for this weekly markets special and weekly market update. And if you could thank your wife for giving you this time out of your day, we'll let you back to your day off, and just thank you for being here.
The pleasure and the honor truly is mine, and I don't think she's home yet, so she probably won't know. So it'll be our secret. Anyways, all the best to you, Don. Again, look forward to chatting with you again real soon.
Take care. This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. 31 years strong, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, licensed and bonded. For physical delivery, vault storage, or precious metals IRAs, excellent prices, privacy, and confidentiality. Pay by check, money order, ACH, bank wire, or Bitcoin. Satisfaction guaranteed. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs.